when you lose your health, it's almost like you have nothing. And so to gain it back is worth fighting for, and it's worth making any changes or sacrifices needed. Hello my friends, my name is Rachel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm sharing my journey to healing from years of severe chronic illness, and today I'm going to be sharing 5 of the top lessons that I learned through doing the carnivore diet for over a year and a half. And I started carnivore about 2 years ago when I was very, very sick. I was essentially bedbound at the time and heard about the carnivore diet through some Facebook groups and started to look into it more, and became really interested when I heard so many people healing from all sorts of different types of chronic illness through doing this, at the time, what I thought sounded crazy diets. And overall, I'm really glad that I did the carnivore diet, and it helped me so much in so many ways. And I'm still mostly eating meat, but I'm not doing a strict carnivore diet anymore, which I will be sharing more about in the future. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the first lesson I learned, which is food is medicine, and it's so important for overall health. I know this is probably an obvious one for a lot of you guys watching this video, but for a lot of people, it actually isn't that obvious. And even for me, when I would go to, top doctors, they would tell me that it didn't matter what I ate. They would tell me that, as long as I was eating gluten-free because I had celiac disease, then that was fine. And at the time I was underweight, and they just said, eat anything you want, eat French fries, eat chips, try to gain weight. And they didn't tell me to eat nourishing foods. They didn't tell me to avoid processed foods. And that's just such a crazy thing to me now, knowing how important food is. And I think it really comes back to the idea that, if you put the wrong type of fuel into a car, then it's gonna have a lot of problems, right? And so we're the same way. If you put the wrong type of fuel into your body, which is the food that you eat, then you're gonna have problems. And we're seeing that now so much because what people are eating in our society, for the most part, isn't even real food. And so this is honestly one of the most valuable lessons I learned through doing carnivore, was that food is medicine. And as I started to see my health transform with changing my way of eating, it showed to me how much it really, really matters what we eat for our overall health. The second big lesson I learned from doing the carnivore diet is our health is worth sacrificing pretty much anything for. I remember when I was severely ill, I thought to myself, I would literally eat dirt for the rest of my life to heal and to be healthy again. Like, obviously that's not what I needed to do, but in the beginning of doing carnivore, I hated every single bite of meat that I ate. I had really strong meat aversion. I was struggling to eat at all at the time. I was underweight, and I was close to needing a feeding tube before starting the carnivore diet, and it just was really hard for me to eat. But every bite I took, I told myself, okay, this is for my health. And I wasn't used to eating red meat, and I didn't like it. And obviously now I love it, and I've grown to love it, but it was worth it to me to do what I needed to do and cut out whatever foods I needed to get better. And I think I feel blessed in that way, that I experienced illness to such an extreme level that I was willing to do anything to get better. But I think some people who are kind of, scraping by and maybe having overall fatigue and not doing that great, but they're able to scrape by, it can be harder to make those drastic life changes to improve your health. When you lose your health, it's almost like you have nothing. And so to gain it back is worth fighting for, and it's worth making any changes or sacrifices needed to heal and recover. The third big lesson I learned is that food addiction is real, sugar addiction is real, and it feels so good to break free of it. Personally, I don't think I experienced this to as severe of a degree as a lot of people do, but I do feel that I had some degree of, food and sugar addiction, and it just feels so good to not need to go get sugar to celebrate something, or when you're sad to make you feel better. And it feels so good to not even feel sad anymore when I'm with a group of people and they're having cake and it's not hard to say no. That's just empowering, and it feels good to be able to say no and to choose to eat the foods that are going to make me healthy and make me feel good. And that's what I want to eat now. It doesn't feel restrictive. And so to be able to break free of that food addiction and that cycle of using sugar as sort of a reward feels really, really good. And as you recover from food addiction yourself, you notice it a lot more in others. And it's just crazy. Everywhere I look, it's so obvious and evident that people are addicted to sugar and to processed foods, and that makes me sad. Not at all in a judgmental way, because obviously I was there and I know what that's like, but it feels really good to have that, I guess you could say, food freedom. The fourth lesson I learned is that eating meat isn't bad for your health and it isn't bad for the environment. And I'm guessing most of you guys watching this probably feel the same way, but when I started carnivore, that was a big concern of mine. I was more on the plant-based vegetarian side. I was not strict vegetarian for a long time, but I didn't eat much meat, and I didn't want to eat a lot of meat because I thought, it wasn't good for your health, and I thought it wasn't good for the environment. But as I've become open-minded to this and learned a lot more about regenerative farming and how important animal agriculture is to the environment, I don't know, I just feel like it's been a really important lesson to learn, because there's so much propaganda out there pushing a plant-based and a meatless diet, and I just think that's such a harmful message. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm sharing what I share, because I just think it's so important for people to learn how essential animal protein and fat is to optimal human health, and not only for optimal health but also for the environment. Regenerative farming is what our environment needs. So I'm really grateful that I've learned this over the last few years, and that my mindset and my views have shifted. So the last lesson I learned is that carnivore isn't the perfect cure for everybody, and diet isn't the only aspect of health and recovery from chronic illness. It's a big and important aspect, but it's not everything. I always like to say that if you have a very dysregulated nervous system, if you have a lot of stress in your life, and you're eating the perfect diet and the perfect foods, it's probably not going to be enough to heal. And that's how it was for me. My nervous system was severely dysregulated. I didn't even know it. I felt calm, but my nervous system was very dysregulated. I was stuck in a chronic state of fight or flight, and so I wasn't even really able to fully digest and absorb the nutrients I was eating from the diet that I was doing. And so for me, nervous system regulation and brain retraining have been just as much important for me in my recovery as diet, and probably even more so. So I think that's a really important thing to remember, and there's really no one size fits all when it comes to diet. I do think there are things that are kind of universal, like cutting out processed foods, cutting out seed oils, adding in more healthy animal protein and fat, but I don't think that a strict carnivore diet is necessarily best for everyone. I do think that eating more animal-based could benefit pretty much everyone, but in the beginning when I started carnivore, I really wanted that to be the one thing that got me better. And as I went on, I realized that wasn't going to be the only thing, that I had to do a lot of other things to continue to heal, like nervous system regulation, spending time in sunlight, meditation, brain retraining, visualizing. So many things have helped me to heal and recover, and diet has been a huge part of it, and I always will be a huge part of my overall health, but it's not the only part. Those are my big takeaways from a year and a half of doing a strict carnivore diet. When I started the carnivore diet, I really felt like it was what I needed to do specifically for me, and I'm so glad I did. It was very hard. It wasn't easy, especially coming from a place where I was struggling to eat at all, but I made it work, and I'm glad that I pushed through the hardest parts because it changed my life, and I will forever be grateful for that. I will forever see food as medicine, and I hope that what I've learned is something that I can continue to pass down to my kids in the future. And of course, I'll continue to share the importance of the food that we eat to as many people as are willing to listen. Anyway, I'm curious what some of the biggest lessons you've learned from doing a carnivore or animal-based diet. Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you, and make sure to subscribe and follow along on Instagram if you haven't already, and I will look forward to seeing you in another video very soon.